All right, 7:15. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavad-gita Ashtotar to the Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavad-gita Ashtotar to the Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All right, I have text 43. Yeah. I just want to confirm that. Yeah, okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On the 17th day of April 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 6, Dhyāna-yoga, the yoga of meditation, text 43 on page 296. Tatra tam buddhi sangyogam labate parva dehikam yatate chatato bhuyaha samsiddhau kudunandana tattatang buddhi sangyogam labate parva dehikam yatate chatato bhuyah samsiddhau kudunandana tattatang buddhi sangyogam labate parva dehikam yatate chatato bhuya samsiddhau kudunandana tattatang buddhi sangyogam labate parva dehikam yatate chatato bhuya samsiddhau kudunandana tattatam buddhi sangyogam labate parva dehikam yatate chatato bhuya samsiddhau kudunandana tattatam buddhi sangyogam labate parva dehikam yatate chatato bhuya samsiddhau kudunandana. Chaitanya Singh. Tattatam buddhi sangyogam labate parva dehikam yatate chatato bhuya samsiddhau kudunandana. Page 296. Tattatam buddhi sangyogam labate parva dehikam samsiddhau kudunandana. Page 296. Okay. Anyone online? Okay, I'll just read the word by words myself. Tatra, thereupon, tam, that, buddhi sangyogam, revival of consciousness, labate, gains, parva dehikam, from the previous body, yatate, he endeavors, cha, also, tataha, thereafter, bhuyaha, again, samsiddhau, for perfection, kurunandana, O son of Kuru. Translation. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, on taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. And I'm going to read the previous translation. Or, if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in this world. And then the present verse, and then he continues, he revives his divine consciousness. Purport. King Bharata, this is referring to someone who does not complete the course of yoga, but attains a certain amount of perfection and then has to take birth again. Purport. King Bharata, who took his third birth in the family of a good brāhmaṇa, is an example of a good birth for the revival of previous transcendental consciousness. King Bharata was the emperor of the world, and since his time, this planet has been known among the demigods as Bharatavarsha. Formerly, it was known as Ilavrtavarsha. The emperor, at an early age, retired for spiritual perfection, but failed to achieve success. In his next life, he took birth in the family of a good brāhmaṇ and was known as Bharata because he always remained secluded and did not talk to anyone. And later on, he was discovered as the greatest transcendentalist by King Rahugana. From his life, it is understood that transcendental endeavors or the practice of yoga never go in vain. By the grace of the Lord, the transcendentalist gets repeated opportunities for complete perfection in Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshura Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Of course, some of you may have noted that Prabhupada omitted a little bit from that story of King Bharat. King Bharat was unusual in that he retired early. Usually we have many stories in the accounts in the Bhagavatam of great devotees who retire at a mature age and then they go to the forest for austerities and continue their Krishna consciousness. But King Bharat was an exception. At a young age, he left his young wife and he left his friends in the kingdom and he went to the forest and he practiced meditation on Krishna. But he was all alone, and then one day he heard kind of a racket on the stream that was nearby. Usually they would set up near streams to get some water. You know, you need water. And what was happening was that there was this pregnant deer who was being chased by a lion or a tiger, I forget which. And the deer jumped into the river. He witnessed all this and panicked and got over to the other side. The lion didn't go in the water, but the deer was terrified, obviously, mother deer. So she was able to crawl up onto the bank, but she expires just as she's giving birth to this little fawn, the baby deer. So here's this baby, this fawn, you know, the helpless living entity, and there's Bharat who witnesses. So naturally he went over and he helped the fawn to, you know, settle down and so forth. And what did the fawn know? All the fawn knew was that he was the mother and the father together. You know, he's completely dependent, became totally attracted to him. And he started just supporting that fawn. He was making sure he was fed and so forth. And then it describes in the 5th canto how he would be sitting in meditation, but the fawn would be nibbling on his ear, you know, and asking for something, you know. And so in other words, it became a big distraction. So when he passed out of that body, he took the body of a deer because he had become infatuated with that little fawn, that deer. But because of his advancement in yoga, he could remember, fully conscious. And so he didn't hang out with the other deer, but he would try to find some place where there was some devotees who were talking, you know, and he kept his consciousness. The next birth, he was born in a family of brahmins. And in order to avoid entanglement and again, family and everything, he played dumb. That's why he's called Bharata. He didn't say anything. And so there were several adventures. The first thing that happened is that, well, what to do with him? You know, he's a Brahmin, you know, born in a Brahmin family, but he's not too smart because he doesn't speak. They thought. Internally, he was remembering Krishna. You know, so they put him in charge of the taking care, watching for the cows, make sure they were okay. You know, he grew up. So at a certain point in time, these Kali worshippers came along, and one of their practices was offering human sacrifice to Kali. And they saw this Bharata, and he was very strong and stout and healthy, you know, which is a prerequisite for being honored by being offered to Kali, right? So anyway, they kidnapped him, and he just played dumb. That's Bharata, and he just went along, you know. And so there's the story. So it describes how they were offering, you know, they're putting him and getting ready to offer him and cut him. But Kali, who was there with the garland of skulls, and she was so angry that because she's a devotee, that they were going to kill Bharata, that she came out of the murti and she expanded. She had her whole agents with her, and they all cut to pieces all these Kali worshippers, and saved Bharat. And then he went wandering, and you know, and then the other adventure is that because he was just not speaking, so they recruited him they needed some palanquin service. There was the king, Rahugana, And they were one short on carrying palanquins. You got to have a complete complement. So they drafted him, and but he didn't want to step on the little insects and everything. So he was irregular. So finally, Rahugana got angry at him. So who is it? What's the matter with you? You know. So finally, Jadabhard spoke at this point, and he was giving pure philosophy, transcendental philosophy, and suddenly Rahugana realized, oh, this is a great sage. He gets off the palanquin, off his obeisances, and he takes instruction from King Bharata. And then he goes wandering, and then he gets in a forest fire, and then he's gone, back to Godhead. So, but the point here is that it took him 2 births to get back to the point where he could really practice. But because of his advancement, he was really, he didn't have to, although he took the birth of a deer, he wasn't the deer's mentality. He was blessed. So the main point is made here. You don't lose anything. That's the whole point here. Because Arjuna was saying, I can't do this process. It's just too much. Chantalamhimana Krishna. The mind is so strong and fickle. It's like trying to control the wind, trying to control a hurricane wind. Impossible. So Krishna says, yes, it's difficult, but it's possible with practice, and on like that. And so Arjuna was doubtful. Yeah, but what happens if you fail? And then I will have given up my life as a Kshatriya and family man. I went to the forest, but I failed in that, so now I have nothing. I'm like a riven cloud. I got nothing. So he said, no, you don't lose anything. The next birth you begin again like that. So he's encouraging him. But basically he's not, Arjuna is not very enthusiastic about this process. So we'll go on here. We're almost at the last verse, which is is kind of a wonderful end verse for this whole chapter, because basically it says, because he's describing Ashtanga Yoga all along here, Krishna, and at the end he says, well, the best yogi is the one who is always thinking of me with love and faith in his heart. And so that will be a great encouragement for Arjuna, because he's already an intimate servant of Krishna. Whenever Krishna takes birth, he also takes birth, although he forgets. But he's an eternal friend of Krishna. So, if there's no discussion on this verse, we can go on. Okay, so they go together. 44. He takes up what he did before. Purvabhyasena tenaiva riyate yavasho pisaha jigyasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. Automatically becomes attracted. Purport: advanced yogis are not very much attracted to the rituals of the scriptures, but they automatically become attracted to the yoga principles, which can elevate them to complete Krishna consciousness, the highest yoga perfection. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.33.7, such disregard of Vedic rituals by the advanced transcendentalists is explained as follows. So, Aho batasya pachoto gariyan yajjigvagre vartate namatubhyam te pustapaste juhavu sasnaraya brahmanucho namagunanti yete. O my Lord, persons who chant the holy names of your Lordship are far, far advanced in spiritual life. Even if born in families of dog-eaters, such chanters have undoubtedly performed all kinds of austerities and sacrifices, bathed in all the sacred places, and finished all scriptural studies. So let's interrupt a second. This verse is spoken by Devahuti to her glorious son Kapila-dev. Kapila-dev is an incarnation of Krishna, and in the 3rd canto, he comes and he has these several chapters of instructions that he gives to his mother, and she there's this verse and there's another verse, I think, after this also about the glories of the chanting of the holy name. That even a dog eater or even someone who chants your names becomes eligible to perform sacrifices. In other words, it's all about the glories of the holy name. And there's several passages in the Bhagavatam which describe the glories of the holy name. And, you know, I immediately identified with this verse. I wasn't a dog eater. You know, I always thought, why would dog eaters be thought as the lowest? How about cow eaters? Isn't that worse? But the dog eaters or cow eaters, I was related to this verse, this says, well, okay, somehow or other, yajjagve vartate namatubhyam, the holy name is somehow vibrating in your mouth, on your tongue, you know, on the tip of your tongue. Then there's a background there of austerity and practice that you're just reclaiming in this lifetime. Now, I'm not going to, you know, make any assumptions. I mean, someone like Brigupati Prabhu, I can easily see he's taking up from previous lifetime. But but Prabhupada said, because devotees would ask Prabhupada about that, you know, and he said, I have made you good fortune. Even if you haven't heard, you know, of Krishna for the last 10 billion births, if you somehow come in touch with this movement and you take it up, then it's as good as, you know, taking it up from a previous life. So somehow or other, if we gain some attraction, some interest, some receptivity to the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and the chanting of the holy name, that's to our eternal good fortune. And we should know when we do it here that nothing is lost. We'll be going to be doing it in our next life too. We should try to go back home, back to guided as hard as we can, be as serious as we can. But if we're not able to, with some circumstance or whatever, then we don't lose everything. Whereas if you make an investment and you somehow make a successful killing in the market and you make $10 million, it's worse than losing it all. Because if you lose it all, maybe you'll open that book that some Hare Krishna gave you 10 years ago and you say, yeah, let me get some solace from this. Oh, science of self-realization, okay. Krishna said, we read that this morning. That Krishna says, this is a tough verse. This is why it's near the end of the Bhagavatam. Tasyaham anugrinnami harishe tad dhanang shanai. I always forget the second half of the verse, so I know what it means. But here he's saying, to those I show my real mercy, I take away all their wealth. What? Are you kidding? Yes, because then you become completely dependent on me. You chant Hare Krishna really sincerely, you know. If you're rolling in dough, you know, if you're comfortable, then isn't that what Kunti says right in his first canto? It says, Aishwarasya. Excuse me, I seem to have a little. The Prayers of Queen Kunti, 8th chapter, 1st canto. Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashashakshaya. No, that's a different one. Janmaishaya, thank you. Janmaishaya shuta shibir edamanamadak puman naiva hattibitatam vai tvama kinchana gochana. Is that, my dear Lord, Krishna's about to go back to Dwarka after the Mahabharata war. She won't see him again. It's very highly fraught, you know, beautiful prayers. My dear Lord, you are very easily attainable, but only by those who are not progressively intoxicated with the opulences of wealth, good birth, high education and beauty. These are classically, you know, opulences that people want. Because those who are so enamored or intoxicated cannot call out to you, cannot address you with deep feeling. In other words, you're available most easily by the chanting of the holy name. But as Prabhupada says in this wonderful purport, there is a quality to such chanting. Those who chant from, you know, destitution, you know, that please save me, O Lord, Hare Krishna, you know, please let me, you know, take a place at your lotus feet. Krishna is known as Dina Bandhu. Dina means the poor, those who are wretched. You know, he's especially attracted when those call out to him and surrender to him in great anxiety. So all these opulences that you can get, you know, especially wealth, beauty, all these different things. Yeah, you may chant, you know, a little bit, But you're not going to be chanting from the point of desperation. You think, well, I'm in pretty good shape over here, so I'll come to the festival, whatever, if you're lucky. But those who are destitute, it's more likely that you feel, well, desperation. That fits in exactly with the verse he speaks to Yudhishthir in the 10th canto, the end of the 10th canto, near the end of the 10th canto, describing how then the verse goes on, and then your family more or less kicks you out. You're broke, and they're relying on you. So then you're just wandering, chanting Hare Krishna, and where are you going to go? The Hare Krishna temple. Or you go to, So that's the idea. So in this case, the devotee yogi is taking birth. He revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and again tries to make further progress. So this is again one of the most encouraging things about Krishna consciousness. There is no loss. There is no diminution. It's completely a plus, and we should try to make as much advancement as possible. It's like greed. That famous verse about greed. Krishna bhakti dasa bhavitamati. So there's another one in the Pejavali. This is not as famous at all, but the devotee is praying to become a miser. What? Yeah, he says, what did he say? I forget the Sanskrit, but I put it into a little poem. It says, compelled to constantly collect and count his precious hoard, the miser contemplates his wealth with avaricious aims. Please bless me to become a miser who's compelled, O Lord, to constantly collect and count and contemplate your names. So that greed can be redirected toward, let me learn, really get the mercy. Let me do more service. Let me learn some more shlokas, and that's good. It's the purification of greed, and that is said to be the real price of the highest rasa. This is the really famous verse. It was written by Ramananda Roy, included in the Bhakti Rasamana Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. Krishna bhakti dasa bhavitamati kriyatam yadikatopi labhyate tatta laulyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukataya na labhyate. So Prabhupada said that this first line of the verse is the source of his famous phrase, Krishna consciousness. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati. The mind absorbed in Krishna bhakti rasa means serving Krishna with love and devotion. You see? So he says, if you can buy it in the market, you should buy it as soon as possible. But then you have to pay the price. What's the price? Your greed for it, your ardent desire for it. Tattva laulyam is good. Abhi mulyam ekala, mulyam is the price. You can't get it by millions of births of pious activity. You won't get the greed, and you certainly won't get the bhakti. So how to develop that greed? By practicing Krishna consciousness, by association with those who have it, who are sincere devotees, and purifying your consciousness. The wonderful thing about it is, it's already there. This is a beautiful verse by Lord Chaitanya teaching Sanatana Goswami. Nitya siddha Krishna prema sadhya kabunoi shavanadi shuddha chitte kodayayodoi. The eternal perfection of Krishna prema is there within everyone's heart. And by the process of bhakti, beginning with hearing and chanting, shavanadi, the hearing, etc., hearing, chanting, remembering, process of devotion, shavanadi shuddha chitte, the consciousness becomes purified, and that love naturally awakens, it naturally manifests, which is very encouraging. We already have the perfection, we just have to cleanse. Chaito Darpana Marjanam, the very beginning of the Shikshastika is all about that. Is by the best process of purification, the congregational chanting. This is our yoga process for this age. And what does it do? It polishes the mirror of the mind, of the heart, so that we can see ourselves purely and see the Lord and progress after that. All right, any questions on this? Sangsiddhau Kudunandana. When we'll attain perfection in the next birth. All right. We did that. So we did 44. Yes. 45. Prayatnad yatamanastu yogi sang siddha kilbishaha aneka janma sang siddhas tato yati param gatim. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. Purport. A person born in a particularly righteous, aristocratic, or sacred family becomes conscious of his favorable condition for executing yoga practice. With determination, therefore, he begins his unfinished task, and thus he completely cleanses himself of all material contaminations. When he is finally free from all contaminations, he attains the supreme perfection, Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the perfect stage of being freed of all contaminations. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7:28. Esham tvandakatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandammohanir mukta bhajante mam jadarvrataha. After many, many births of executing pious activities, when one is completely free from all contaminations and from all illusory dualities, one becomes engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord. Now that's interesting because that's a little different from the translation we find in actual 7. The contaminations is free from sin, antagatam papam. And I think that, if I recall, that means sinful reactions. If it's understood you're going to be sinless, you're not going to be forming any sins, but even previous sinful activities, the reactions have been cleared away. That's part of the purification process. So this is right near the end of the chapter, and we're going to be reading that soon. That chapter. Okay, so he's encouraging Arjuna, yes, but it's many births of practice. Okay, I'll go on then. Tapasibhyo diko yogi Jnanibhyo pi matodikaha karmibhyas chadiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjana. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. Purport. When we speak of yoga, we refer to linking our consciousness with the Supreme Absolute Truth. Such a process is named differently by various practitioners in terms of the particular method adopted. When the linking process is predominantly in fruitive activities, it is called karma yoga. When it is predominantly empirical, it is called Dhyāna-yoga. And when it is predominantly in devotional relationship with the Supreme Lord, it is called bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga, or Krishna consciousness, is the ultimate perfection of all yogas, as will be explained in the next verse. The Lord has confirmed herein the superiority of yoga, but he has not mentioned that it is better than bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is full spiritual knowledge, and therefore nothing can excel it. Asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. Empiric knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord is also imperfect. And fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. Therefore, the most highly praised form of yoga performance mentioned here is bhakti yoga, and this is still more clearly explained in the next verse, which we'll be able to read and complete the chapter. So, Srila Prabhupada, throughout the Bhagavad Gita as it is, you'll notice as you read, he's always bringing it back to Bhakti Yoga. But you can easily understand how some of these other commentators, they're getting into all these things. They don't understand the actual purpose of the purpose and purport of the Bhagavad Gita, that they can go far afield in their commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. But Prabhupada always brings it back to the real theme of the Bhagavad Gita, because when you get to the end, Krishna has these two essential verses that sum up the whole thing. And basically he says, okay, everything I spoke before, okay, you can forget about that. And here's the truth. He says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajim nam namaskuru mame vaishasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. And then the next verse, which is universally famous, Sarva dharmam parityaja mame kam sharanam bhaja. Aham tvam savapapebhyo mokshiyasami mashrichaha. Just think of me, become devoted, worship me, and bow down low. You'll come to me, O friend. I promise you this boon I shall bestow. Reject all other dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins I'll nullify, O Arjun, from anxiety. Be free. So what is all those other dharmas? What he spoke before. Jnana-yoga, karma-yoga, Dhyāna-yoga. You see? Ashtanga-yoga, Dhyāna-yoga. So it's epitomized in this text 47, which we could read now. And that is that, but the best yogi, O Arjun, is what is always thinking with me with great faith. As soon as you talk about faith, you're talking about bhakti. Thinking within his heart with great faith and worshiping me with transcendental love. So Arjun breathes a big sigh of relief and says, oh, well, I already love Krishna, so things are very... But then he'll get into the heart of the Gita, which is the middle 6 chapters. And it's wonderful because he describes in the first part of the chapter, maybe the first 10, 12 verses, how one can adjust one's consciousness and say, without great austerities, just so you can understand how you can begin to see God everywhere, see Krishna everywhere. I am the light of the sun and the moon. I am the taste of water. I am the ability in man. Okay, when do we not see the light of the sun or the moon? When do we not taste some water? You see? We experience these things every day. So if we remember those verses, then we can say, oh, that's Krishna's energy. And Krishna created the water. He created our tongue. And he created our whole body and senses so that we can experience it. So where is Krishna not involved in that experience? You see? That's the idea. He's behind everything. So, but it's hard to remember that when we're trying to exploit this material energy for our sense gratification. Then the covering comes down and we forget the Lord. We become the enjoyer, the controller, false enjoyer, false controller. That's our fate. But when we start to remember Krishna through the ways that Krishna describes, then we take a humble position. And the whole idea is that, oh, let me use the things that Krishna has created for Krishna's service. And that brings really real happiness. That is the happiness of the soul, not just of the senses. So that's what we're talking. We're going to come back. All right, I'm going to read this last verse because it sums up everything very nicely. Yes, please. But we need a mic. Where are the mics? You didn't bring the mics. Oh, we have one here. Oh, you got one. Oh, you got it.
Yeah. The question is, so if you said that the Krishna created everything around us, so it means that Krishna created the wine, Krishna created the vodka, and kind of like these products, right? So what was the idea of it?
What was the idea of it?
Yeah, so it means he's part of...
Why did he do this?
I mean, it means that there is some part of the Krishna sitting in the vodka or in the wine or somewhere, right?
I'm not getting it. Sitting in the what?
In the vodka or in the wine.
In the wine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the idea is this, is that, here's the way it's explained, that originally everyone has a place in the spiritual world. And what's happening there is that Krishna's the center, he's the object of love for everybody. And there are various kinds of varieties of service that you can give him in that relationship. These are called the different rasas. For instance, there's all of his friends. He's got these cowherd boyfriends. He takes the role there of a cowherd boy, someone who herds cows. And so there's this idyllic situation, Goloka Vrindavan, because he's controlling everything. The whole thing is engineered. He's like a great impresario or a director. And the whole purpose is to nourish these different relationships of love. And friendship is one of them. So he has all these friends, and they go out every day to herd the cows, and that's their job, But the cows are doing their thing, eating the grass, and the boys are playing in different ways. Now on Earth, when he has the replica, it comes down, and this happened 5,000 years ago. Then you also had demons coming, demons coming because it's a long story, but there's this king who was predicted to be killed by him, so he's trying to kill him in various ways. So he sends these demons, his friends, and Krishna kills them. He's just this delicate little boy, but somehow he can kill this huge snake that comes, and then he kills a big bull, and he kills this, and a tornado demon, and all these things. So all of that provides, wonderful subject matter for the boys to glorify him when they get home and tell them the mothers, oh yeah, Krishna is so wonderful. So anyway, we can read about that. That's the reality. We have had a part in that, but the whole idea is that it's based on love, and love has to be freely given, and therefore we have a bit of independence. We can withhold that love. We're free to do that. But if we do that, we become disturbances there, because everything is complete. So therefore, this whole material world is created for us, rebellious souls. There's uncounted quadrillions of us. And we come down here and we are given bodies made of the material energy by which we can try to exploit it and enjoy. And eventually we come to the human form, and where we have the intelligence, where we can understand a philosophy like the Bhagavad Gita and understand we made a great mistake. And therefore we should try to cultivate that relationship with Krishna again, and so that we can return to that land. So in the process of creation, there exist all of these sensations. There is, we, especially in this age, we have wine, we have all kinds of intoxicants and things that we try to enjoy. But it binds us more and more and to life of suffering again and again in this world. So the point is simply to practice the principles of and the practices of bhakti yoga to systematically purify our consciousness from all of this dirt, really, that has given us the sense of the false ego. It's the false sense of self as this body, you see, and the things related to the body. Me and mine is called the ahankar, our aham mameti. I am this body, and things related to the body are mine. You see, that's all false. We're not the body. We're soul. And the nature of the soul is to be established in this spiritual, eternal relationship with God, ever fresh, new varieties of ways of expressing the relationship. And that's the source of the highest bliss, which we have forgotten about. So all of this stuff, yes, is created by God because we wanted it. And we had this minute independence where we can turn our backs on Him. We have to have a place to go where we can, at long last, depending on our intelligence, get reformed and return to that original position. That's the whole idea. And that's what the process of yoga is linking the Krishna through all of our faculties, the intelligence, the words, whatever senses we have. That's what bhakti is, full engagement. And purification, so that we're no longer interested, we're no longer attracted to all these things that are like knots in the heart that keep us bound to birth and death. And it's possible to, even in our 50 years of devotional service, I was a semi-hippie. Luckily, I didn't get into it too deep. But I was a child of the 60s. And the last thing in the world I would have thinking of as becoming a monk. I was a total atheist. My religion was communism. My father trained me in it. He really believed in it. And God, I just thought it was the opium of the people. I thought, what fools. That's the way I was into my early 20s. But Krishna slapped me down. The best thing that ever happened is I had a serious case of hepatitis. I'm in the hospital for a month. It just happened to be the moonwalk, the first moonwalk, 1969, July. I remember watching it. I didn't think that it could be false or whatever. And when I came out, I wanted to get my health back, and they was just starting to get some yoga studios, hatha yoga. And so I had to find yellow pages because I'm on the island. There certainly weren't any there, but in Manhattan I found one. And it just so happened to be the same yoga studio that Bhagavad was coming to. We joined about the same time. Did you get initiated in January of '74 too? It's the same. So, there's a long saga, but there's no question. I can honestly say I never regretted it 1 minute after I joined. It was just like, I was into. By the time I joined, I was already into chanting Hare Krishna, because I had meditated, And these were the one yoga studio you could go to where the more you chanted, the more they liked you. The other ones you go to, and it's, all right, that's enough of that now. We got to do this. We got to do this. All right, So I just. So it's that's the basic thing. Yeah, Krishna creates it, But it's for our ultimate reformation, this material world. That's the idea. Yeah.
So would you say Krishna doesn't necessarily create wine? He just creates the elements that would make up wine.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a constant thing, you know. I mean, every creation there's intoxicants of various kinds, you know.
Yeah.
So we figure out how to do that, and then we think we're enjoying, and we just get buried deeper and deeper in the modes of ignorance. Yes, hold on.
Prabhupada did say that if an alcoholic, every time he drinks wine, if he thinks that this wine is the taste of Krishna, he said one day he'll
become a devotee.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Prabhupada started the movement in the Lower East Side. In fact, he started on the Bowery. Now, I lived in New York. We remember New York. The Bowery, you know, now we have homeless people all over the place, you know. I mean, but there, if you were at, you know, you on the Skid Row is called, you would go to New York, you would go to the Bowery. So you had people from all over the country, you know. So you know, he hardly had any money, he had hardly any friends, you know, but he was able to get residence in a Bowery loft, you know, where you had to walk up 2 or 3 flights in order to get there, you know. And they say that the drunks would sleep in front of his door. He'd have to ask them to move, you know, and all this stuff. So this is Prabhupada. He started the movement. But he had faith. He had tremendous faith in the holy name. And so he would gather people and he would start singing. I think he was still playing that half a bongo drum, you know, at first. The dundubi, he called it dundubi. It was generic for a drum. And there were all kinds of people there. Mukunda, who joined Michael Grant. He was a highly qualified musician, who was, you know, had a loft in that place too, you know. And he heard that there was a new guru in town, and came and checked it out, and he heard the music, and it was, you know. And so it was. I was just contemplating recently if Prabhupada had come 5 years earlier or 5 years later, I don't think the movement would have taken off. Certainly not as it did, you know. But it was just at the right time when there were intelligent people, college graduates who had been dropping acid and doing, you know. But they were inquisitive. They were reading, and they were, you know. So when the new guru was in town, oh, let's check him out, you know. And so they would come to the store later on. They got this 22nd Avenue. Mukunda had a lot to do with that, finding it and helping him move and everything. And so, you know, Krishna was behind it, that the seed, he was planting the seeds of bhakti in the hearts of the early devotees. And then they went to the West Coast, and, you know, the rest is history, as they say. Here we are on the West Coast. Well, it's getting a little late. Did you have more? I think you had a question, you had a comment. Okay. So let me share a couple of little poems, because I was talking about Krishna going into the forest. So there's 3 poems that I wrote, and they all go with paintings, which you can't see right now, but I'll describe them. The first one is a beautiful painting that Muralidhar did. He did it in Brooklyn, and I knew he was doing it, and when it came out, I was checking my rounds in front of it. So Krishna's entering the forest. He's surrounded by all his friends, and the cows are there, and the gopis are watching him go, and they're, you know, it's a very idyllic scene. He's playing the flute. So, and it matches with a verse at the beginning of chapter 21, which is the famous chapter, 10th canto, the Venu Gita, where Krishna goes into the forest and the gopis are singing of him, remembering him, you know, while they're doing their chores at home. So he's entering the forest. Barha pidam natavadavapu karnayo karnikaram. Bibrad vasak kanaka kapisham vaijayandim chamalam. Randran venor adadasudeya pudeyan gopa vrinda vrindaranyam swapatantamanam prabhishad gita kirti. With lovely peacock plume upon his head and fragrant flower placed upon each ear, he enters Braja's woods with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glows, his splendid garland reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows and fills his flute with charming melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day, with cowherd friends who sing his glory sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way with fine impressions of his lotus feet. So the next verse is chronological. So they're now free of the town, and Krishna and Balaram start running along the banks of the Yamuna. And there's a painting, and his friends and the cows are all behind, you know, and they're going to have a wonderful day playing. So, let's go, said Krishna, don't delay at all. And he and Balaram began to run ahead of all their coward friends who called, "Oh Krishna, Rama, let us join the fun." And off they ran to Braja's forest haunts to play in every bower, grove, and sward. A sward is a meadow. The friends would tease their friend with playful taunts, forgetting his position as the Lord. Shri Krishna is inviting us as well to join him in his pastimes with enthrall. The wise heed Krishna when they hear him tell, "Let's go, my friends, do not delay at all." So there's one more. Now they're deep in the forest, and Krishna's riding on a swing. This swing, he has a couple of boys with him, and they're pulling. And so this is one of their favorite pastimes. For Krishna and his multitude of friends, a festival of joy each day would bring. A special thrill in Braja's forest glens was riding with him high upon a swing. O Ujjvala, Sri Dama, Bhadrasena, just see Vrindavan's bountiful delights, the peacock's dance, the songbird's sweet refrain, the lakes and hills and other scenic sights. All these make this the best place on the earth for us to play all day and herd the cows. Thus Krishna, in the mood of sportive mirth, enthused his friends while swinging from the boughs. So those are like three verses that kind of go together. We have time for one more. If you want to take a break, you can. I have energy. So here's a prayer to always have the lotus flower of Krishna's face growing in the lake of your heart, written by Rupa Goswami. Smita duchi makadandam syandivaktraravindam tavaputapapahangsan vishlagandham mukunda viduchita pashupali netra sarangarangam mamadidiyata dagi sangamangi karotu. From the lotus of your face, dear Lord, trickles forth the luscious nectar of the beauty of your smile. Your exalted devotees, great swans, seek the fragrance of that lotus which does air their hearts beguile. Your beloved gopis' eyes, mad bees, taste the most exquisite pleasure in that lotus of your face. O my dear Mukunda Dev, I pray, may the lake of my poor heart be by that lotus ever graced. And then, okay, we have time for two more short ones. Some of you may recognize these verses. Trinadapi sunichena, tarorapi sahishnuna, amanina manadena, kirtaneyak sadahari. This is the key to chanting Hare Krishna successfully. You have to have this attitude. More humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, to think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant his name incessantly until the final hour. Next verse. Nadanang nadanang nasundaring kapitang vajikadish kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhaktadahayutuki twahi. Wealth and women followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. One more. Okay, this is the alternate way of chanting this. Ainandatanurti kinkadam patitam vishame bhavambudho kripayata papata pankajastita duli sadushang vichindaya. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. And then here's one of my favorites based on Rishabde's famous prayer, Nayam Deho De Bhajang Niloke. Oh friend, don't waste this precious human life, dear friend, by working hard for hoggish happiness. Through bhakti yoga, worldly life transcend and learn to taste divine love's endless bliss. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Okay, we can adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. By the way, two things. If you want to get any of this poetry, just write to me at Dravida108 at Gmail. Dravida108. And I'll send you my PDF file, my compendium. And if you want to, there was this incredible experience, unexpected, in 2005 in Mayapur, where I was requested to chant the whole Shikshastika with the poetry, with Vyasaki as my sideman. and Narendra behind me, and Radhanath Swami behind him, and all the devotees dancing and chanting in between. Just go to YouTube and search for Dravida space Mayapur, and you'll find it. I've gone viral. It's been 19 years, and I almost have 20,000 hits.